what have I done personally to help myself get over lifelong pain related to the food I eat and the way my body digests it, or rather doesn't digest it very well at all. Now, in my last video, I talked about 3 specific veggies, cabbage, garlic, and onions, that I simply can't eat and that many other people can't eat either due to the symptoms, the stomach symptoms that these veggies cause. So I talked about veggies that can replace them. I also said I'd be doing another video, this one very shortly, to share with you the ways that I have dealt with my chronic, serious, long-term pain due to food in my life, all my life, but yet have managed to get it under control and almost now non-existent for the last 8 to 10 years. Hi, I'm Kim, and behind me is a small part of my garden here at Olive City Oasis in Northern California. Usually I talk about, gardening, about my veggies, my herb garden, my fruit orchard, and just growing interesting trees and plants. But not today. Today is different, but I hope you'll stick around for this topic because learning how to overcome IBS symptoms is very important. Did you know that on average, 11 to 15% of the world's population deals with IBS symptoms every day, and 20% of the world population is dealing with food intolerances? So even if what I'm talking about in today's video doesn't directly apply to you, perhaps you'll have the chance one day to pass along these ideas to someone who will greatly appreciate them. Now, if this is the first time you're visiting my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you found me today. And if you're a returning viewer, well, welcome back and thanks for watching this video that's not directly related to gardening. All right, let's get started. First, let's start with a couple of definitions, words that are floating around that let's just be clear before we go forward what I mean by them. So if I say IBS, I'm talking about irritable bowel syndrome, which is a chronic disorder, comes and goes in intensity and frequency, but it's just always there. To do with food, it's a disorder that affects the whole GI tract, the gastrointestinal tract, from the stomach and the small and large intestines. Symptoms include abdominal pain, cramping, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, any combination of these things. Now, I often just say stomach issues because people know what you're talking about if you say that. It means you have something going on in your stomach that is not normal, not routine, not pleasant, in fact, very unpleasant. For me, my symptoms have always been severe pain and sometimes some bloating. And that might seem minor. What about all the other symptoms? I know, I feel for people that have all those other symptoms. But I will say that my severe pain on eating so many things all my life definitely affected my life. And so my life was completely changed, so much for the better, when I finally figured out how I personally could deal with it. Now, I am not under the impression that anything I share with you right now is going to be this big revelation to you. If you have been dealing with chronic digestive problems and pain and other symptoms for any length of time, I'm sure you've done some research, I'm sure you've talked to doctors, and you've heard a lot of suggestions too, probably from family and friends. So I know that what I say might not be new to you, although some of it might, but this has been my experience for decades, and nothing worked until the last 8 years. And now I can say I'm almost completely pain-free. The times I do experience pain is usually because I knew better and I ate something I shouldn't have. So I'm going to talk about 7 things that have helped me tremendously, and by far the most important for me has been the 7th one. In fact, the 7th way I manage my IBS symptoms is so important to me, I've decided to give it its very own video. The other things are really foundational. You have to address them first. Well, you don't have to. You can do these in any order you want. But I find that if you don't do the foundational things, even if you do the really important things at the end that have helped me so much, well, they can't make all the differences that they would if you had the foundation right. And what do I mean by the foundation? Well, one key factor and then some routines to put into place. Number 1, your food choices. But I don't have a list of the right foods and the wrong foods for you to eat. That would be ridiculous and that would be impossible because IBS or just food intolerances, they're individual totally. What bothers me might not bother you. What bothers you might not bother Joe. What bothers Joe might not bother Mary. So I had to go at this in a very personal way, and so do you. One of the things I looked at was, well, what caused the most pain for most people? What do the doctors say? Oh, certainly don't eat that. That almost always causes a problem. Well, there's a little list of those. Fried foods, fatty foods, alcohol, carbonated drinks, the artificial sweeteners they put in the diet drinks, and some say caffeine. Although caffeine has never bothered me, thankfully, because I love it a lot, but I would give it up if it was causing me pain, and it hasn't so far. The second way I approached figuring out what foods I could eat without pain was keeping a food journal. And that sounded really boring to me for a long time, so for a long time I resisted doing it. But when I got serious about this, I gave in and I started keeping a food journal. Meaning simply I'd write down what I ate, when I ate it, and then keep track of my symptoms. When did I experience pain, and how long did that pain last, and how intense was it? That was the extent of my food journaling, and after about 6 months, really, it was pretty clear which foods obviously were triggers for me. And I think it might be clear for you too if you go to the effort of making a food journal. You have to be consistent though for it to work, but if you're going through a lot of symptoms, you probably have the motivation to be consistent. Now, the third thing I did that really changed my life about 9 years ago was getting a book, and it doesn't have to be this book, but it needs to be a good, reliable, scientifically based book that covers the FODMAP diet. Now, I'm not here to be a proponent for any particular diet system, and I think labeling the FODMAP diet a diet is really not accurate because the connotation for the word diet really is on restricting calories or on only eating one certain kind of food. The FODMAP diet is not about that, however. The FODMAP diet is about identifying the FODMAP foods that are known to be the major cause of most IBS symptoms. Now, what does FODMAP, that acronym, stand for? Well, it stands for fermentable short-chain carbohydrates, but if you actually want to know what each letter stands for, F, fermentable, and then on down the line, O, oligosaccharides, D, disaccharides, M, monosaccharides, A, and P, polyols. But really, they're just short-chain carbohydrates. These have been proven to cause the symptoms, pain, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, all these things that come to those of us whose digestive systems, our GI tracts just aren't working up to par, and for most of us never have. Now, this book was enlightening to me. In fact, yes, it was a revelation. I'd heard about FODMAPs, of course, but I really had no idea what they were until I read through this book. And it's organized very well. It gives you the lists you need to be able to compare things. And I remember when I first read it, going down these lists, going, yes, 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 yes. Every once in a while, I'd be like, no, that doesn't bother me, which was nice. But it's true. Not everything on these lists that bother most people will bother you. And you can make note of that. And some of the things you'll say, really, I haven't even tried that. I should try that and see if that bothers me. So I used that book as the third step to help me finalize the types of foods I could eat on an ongoing basis without worry of them bothering me. Taking the time to build that foundation of having excellent food choices available to me at all times really has made life much, much easier for me. I'll also say that reading through that book and seeing all those foods that bothered a lot of people made me realize I wasn't just imagining it. Because when you go through life from a child, reacting to so many foods with strong pain, well, even people that mean well tend to doubt you, tend to think you are just exaggerating, tend to think it's all in your head. So this was quite a reassuring book to see that there are reasons why these foods bother me. And if I don't eat, say, bell peppers, well, then I'm not bothered. You'll have to excuse the glow, the sweat, because it's 110 today and strangely overcast. I say strange because it's never overcast here except maybe in mid-January. But yeah, it is a little bit overcast and a little bit muggy. It's never muggy. We don't have humidity here, but it is a little humid today. Too bad that doesn't mean it's going to rain, but I tell you what, that won't be happening. Anyway, excuse the glow. Now I want to talk about 4 routines that will greatly help you in your journey to a pain-free, symptom-free life when it comes to stomach issues. And if good food choices, meaning the choices that work for you, were the foundation, these 4 routines are kind of like the 4 corner posts, I suppose, of your house, your life. And they, again, are very common sense things. We should know them. We all know them. Our grandmas told us. But probably our grandmas also told us common sense shouldn't be called common sense because it isn't very common. Well, here they are. 1 is water. Drink more water. We're supposed to be getting 2 liters of water every day. And we're actually quite depleted in water before we ever get thirsty. Now, I didn't know any of this until I started on this journey. I was always a person who never drank water. I mean, I won't say I prided myself on it because that would be kind of dumb, but I just noted in my life that I didn't need water. Like, I could go a long time without water. That's not a good thing. That's very bad for your health. And in the sense of digestion, it's a very, very bad thing. Your body needs lots of water to complete the digestive process completely, yes, and to complete it well. It can't do it without water, so we need to drink more water. And for me, that meant setting reminders. It was not going to happen if I didn't make it happen. And so that's what I do now. It doesn't have to be plain water. You can do it with iced tea or herbal teas as well. But don't do it with carbonated drinks because, what we said before, carbonation, not good for most people with stomach problems. Second routine would be sleep, regular sleep. This is another one that I had to work hard to get under my belt, and I still am struggling with it a bit. I like to be able to get by on less sleep than I should because I'm always wanting to be busy doing things, so I want to stay up later and get up earlier. But really, my body and your body needs sleep. And depending on how old you are and your overall health will determine how much sleep you need. But during sleep, your body does so much for your health, including rebalance your gut. So you need sleep specifically to help the digestive process that goes on in your body day in and day out. So make it a routine and work on it if it's a problem for you to improve it slowly but surely. The third routine that is very important, and maybe you haven't heard of before, is it's much better for those of us who have problems with food, with digestion, to eat small, frequent meals throughout the day, not just 2 or 3 big meals, not skipping meals like skipping breakfast or skipping lunch. It is to eat small, frequent meals throughout the day, 5 to 6 at least. This is called grazing. And it really helps your digestive system because you're not overstimulating it with too much food. And studies have shown that it really greatly reduces the symptoms for many people with IBS. So this is not a change that would be too difficult for you to put in place in your life if you don't currently do it. And if it can make a big difference, why not? Now, the fourth corner post, the fourth routine you'll want to put in place for a less symptomatic, more pain-free life when it comes to what you eat is more physical activity. It doesn't have to be a workout at the gym. It can be walking with your dog. It can be swimming. It can be dancing in the front room or hiking in the hills. It can be gardening, which I do every day. Working out here, I get quite a workout, 5 to 7 hours a day here in my garden and my orchard. But whatever it is, you've got to keep moving. That movement and exertion is super helpful in helping you sleep better, which we know is important, and also in the overall function of your bowels. The third thing that the physical activity is good for, and you'll know this if you've ever done any kind of regular physical activity, is that it greatly reduces stress. And speaking of stress, it is a really important component in this whole equation of food and pain and other symptoms. So you may not know this, but the gut, our intestines, our GI tract, it actually has its own brain. It's called the enteric nervous system. And this brain is in charge of how well and how quickly your body digests the food you eat. Now, the gut brain and the actual brain are connected, so they talk to each other back and forth. And stress and anxiety that starts up here can actually cause IBS symptoms down in the gut. And the gut brain can send messages up top, causing all sorts of mental health issues, even leading to depression. It's all very circular in nature, all very interrelated. Stress and anxiety can make the brain release chemicals to increase pain signals in the gut. And that increased pain can cause your muscles to spasm, and it can disturb your sleep, of course, leading to other problems. Stress and anxiety can even change the permeability of your intestinal walls, which leads to inflammation, which causes all sorts of immune system problems. So clearly the answer here is we need to reduce stress to reduce the pain and other symptoms caused by our IBS, our stomach problems. That leads me to point number 6. We can lessen stressors by regulating our physical environment. This is something I've done a lot of in the last 10 years. The first step was moving here, far away from the city, out into the countryside with my 2.5 acres of rural farmland, as it were. And basically that move meant that I was able to leave behind some very tense situations and some very stressful people that were in my life at that time. But regulating your physical environment can be as simple as making sure your temperature is right, not getting too hot or too cold. Just being out here in the heat, I have to be in the shade or I just can't handle it. It's too stressful. Other things in our physical environment that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety for us are crowds, loud noises, traffic, clutter, mess. I'm sure you can think of more. But these are all things that in one way or another we can regulate, we can shape, we can lessen their effect on us, the stress they cause on us, if we're serious about it. And I think if you're still here in this video, you are serious about it. So see what you can do to lessen those stressors, even if it means moving. In fact, I am going to be moving from my location here, my dream location, which I have enjoyed so much for the last 10 years. But in about 2 years, when my youngest child finishes college, I am going to be moving because I cannot handle 110 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit every summer for 2 months anymore. I used to love the heat. It didn't bother me at all, the high heat, but now it does. And I have decided it's such a stressor on my system that I don't want to put up with it any longer. And so it's one of the main reasons I will be moving. Another serious decision I had to make in relation to physical environment, as I alluded to previously, was cutting certain people out of my life. And I did not do that impulsively. It was only after much thought. But if certain people in your life are extremely negative and critical and, well, lots of other things that are causing you stress and nothing you've done to try to make the situation work has helped at all, there does come a time when it's best to, well, cut your losses and separate. The goal, again, is to have your physical environment not be causing you stress and anxiety. Do what you can to make your physical environment, what surrounds you, as calm and peaceful and uplifting as possible. So what is this 7th way that I've learned and been practicing over the last decade to deal with my chronic IBS pain? Severe pain that I've dealt with all my life on a daily basis until the last 10 years. Well, I cannot wait to share it with you, but as I mentioned earlier, I've decided to do a separate video to talk all about it. So why did I do that? Well, really because there's just so much to say about it, and also because, well, it is the key, I realized, to much better health overall in life, not just better health for those with IBS. So if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell now so you'll be notified when that next video comes out, because I really want to share the final step of my journey to a pain-free life with IBS. Thanks for letting me share with you the first crucial part of my IBS recovery journey. Of course, I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just telling my story honestly. And I'm hoping that it's helped you somehow, even if it's just been an encouragement to you, to know you're not alone and to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I also hope you'll come back for the final stage of the journey in my next video. But until then, remember, you can create the life you want. So why not start right now?